You've been taught that to win in life, you must speak, argue, explain, defend, and prove. That your voice is your weapon, your words your shield, your ability to respond your greatest advantage. But what if that entire belief system is a carefully disguised trap? What if the moment you feel the urge to explain yourself, to justify your position, to react emotionally to someone else's words, is the exact moment you surrender your power? This is where Friedrich Nietzsche begins to dismantle the illusion. Because in his world, strength was never loud, it was never desperate, it never begged to be understood. The silent man does not win because he has nothing to say, he wins because he has nothing to prove. Look closely at the dynamics of any interaction. The moment tension rises, most people rush to fill the space. They speak faster, their tone sharpens, their thoughts scatter into a desperate attempt to regain control. But control was never in their words to begin with, it was in their composure. And the second they abandon that composure, they hand the entire frame of the interaction to the other person. Nietzsche understood something brutally simple. The need to be understood is a form of dependency, and dependency is the root of weakness. When you need someone else to validate your position, your identity, your truth, you are no longer standing on your own ground, you are negotiating your existence. The silent man refuses this negotiation. He does not rush to correct misunderstandings. He does not scramble to defend accusations. He does not feel the compulsive need to clarify every perception others hold about him. Because he understands something most never will. People do not change their perception of you based on your explanations. They change it based on your presence. And presence is not built through noise. It is built through restraint. Through the ability to hold your ground without filling the void with unnecessary words. There is a hidden violence in silence, not the kind that destroys others, but the kind that dismantles illusions. When you remain silent in a moment where others expect reaction, you interrupt their psychological script. They were prepared for resistance, they were prepared for explanation, they were prepared for a predictable response. But silence gives them nothing to work with, and in that absence, something uncomfortable begins to form. Doubt, uncertainty, self-reflection, the very things most people spend their lives avoiding. This is why silence unsettles people. It forces them to confront themselves. When you do not react, they are left alone with their own words, their own tone, their own behavior. And suddenly the focus shifts. It is no longer about controlling you. It becomes about understanding why they cannot. Nietzsche would argue that this is where real power begins, not in dominating others, but in becoming immune to their influence. The average man cannot tolerate this. He feels the pull to speak, to correct, to defend. It burns inside him like an itch he cannot ignore. And this is where he loses, because every reaction reveals something, every explanation exposes intention, every emotional response provides data, and data creates predictability. The more you reveal, the easier you are to control. The silent man understands this instinctively. He does not rush to express himself because he knows that every unnecessary word is a leak of power. Instead, he observes, not passively, but strategically. While others are busy performing, he is studying. Patterns begin to emerge. Who reacts under pressure? Who seeks validation? Who cannot tolerate being ignored? These are not small details. They are psychological entry points. And once you see them, you begin to understand that most people are not acting freely. They are acting predictably, driven by invisible needs they cannot control. Nietzsche's concept of the individual who transcends the herd was never about domination in the crude sense. It was about liberation from these invisible chains. The silent man is not silent because he is weak. He is silent because he is no longer compelled. He does not speak to fill space. He speaks when there is purpose. And because of that, every word he chooses carries weight, not because it is louder, but because it is rare. Think about the people who truly command attention in any room. not the loudest, not the most expressive, but the ones who can sit in stillness without discomfort, the ones who do not chase the conversation, yet the conversation bends toward them. There is a reason for this. Human beings are drawn to what they cannot easily read. Predictability creates comfort, but mystery creates respect, and silence is the birthplace of mystery. When you speak constantly, you remove all mystery. You become transparent, easy to categorize, easy to anticipate. But when you restrain your words, when you allow space to exist without rushing to fill it, you create distance between your internal world and external perception. And in that distance, power grows, because now people must interpret you rather than consume you. This is where the shift becomes dangerous, because once you stop reacting, people begin to reveal more than they intended. They speak longer, they explain deeper, they try to pull something out of you, and in doing so, they expose their own insecurities, their own intentions, their own weaknesses, all while you remain still, all while you gather information without giving any away.
The silent man becomes a mirror, not by reflecting words, but by reflecting pressure. When someone tries to provoke him and receives nothing in return, they are forced to confront their own behavior. They begin to question themselves. They begin to overthink. And in that overthinking, they lose control of the interaction they once believed they dominated. But this level of control is not natural. It is trained. Because your instinct will always push you toward reaction, toward expression, toward the need to be seen and understood. And Nietzsche would say this instinct is precisely what must be mastered, not suppressed blindly, but understood and controlled. Because the man who cannot control his own impulses will always be controlled by the impulses of others. Silence, then, is not absence, it is discipline. It is the conscious decision to remain grounded when everything inside you demands movement. It is the refusal to play a game designed to pull you out of your center. And once you develop this discipline, something subtle begins to change. You are no longer pulled into every conflict. You are no longer drained by every interaction. You begin to choose. And choice is where power lives. Because most people do not choose their reactions, they are triggered into them. A comment leads to defense, a challenge leads to explanation, a slight leads to retaliation. It is a chain reaction, predictable, automatic, and entirely controllable by anyone who understands it. But the silent man breaks this chain. He inserts space between stimulus and response, and in that space, he decides. Do I respond? Does this matter? Is this worth my energy? Most of the time, the answer is no. And that no is what separates him from the rest. Because while others are exhausting themselves trying to win every interaction, he is conserving his energy for the moments that actually matter. He is not distracted by noise. He is not baited by provocation. He is not driven by the need to be right. He is driven by something far more rare: clarity. Nietzsche's philosophy was never about comfort. It was about confronting uncomfortable truths. And one of the most uncomfortable truths is this: most of what you say is unnecessary. Most of what you defend does not need defending. Most of what you react to does not deserve your attention. But you have been conditioned to believe otherwise. Conditioned to believe that silence equals weakness, that not responding equals losing. But look deeper. Who is truly losing? The one who remains composed, unaffected, and in control of himself? Or the one who is pulled into every emotional exchange, constantly explaining, constantly reacting, constantly seeking to reassert a position that was never truly secure? The silent man does not chase control. He embodies it. And because of that, people begin to adjust around him. They become more careful, more measured, not because he demanded it, but because his presence made carelessness ineffective. You cannot manipulate someone who does not react. You cannot pressure someone who does not feel the need to respond. You cannot control someone who is not seeking your approval. This is the paradox Nietzsche forces you to confront. Power is not taken through force. It is revealed through restraint. And once you understand this, your entire approach to life begins to shift. You stop trying to win every argument. You stop trying to prove your worth. You stop trying to be understood by people who benefit from misunderstanding you. Instead, you move differently. You speak less. You observe more. You react only when necessary. And when you do speak, it matters, because silence has prepared the ground. So the next time you feel that urge, that burning need to respond, to defend, to explain, pause. Recognize it for what it is. Not strength, not confidence, but conditioning. And in that pause, make a different choice. Say nothing and watch what happens. Because the moment you stop playing their game is the moment you start winning your own. If this shifted something in your thinking, don't let it fade into noise. Apply it, test it, live it. And if you're serious about mastering this level of control, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and check the link in the description to go deeper.